Thank you, Gianni. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you also for responding to the presentation of the work of our group that has already been done by addressing taxation issues. So the momentum of LuxLeaks shows the need to act now against corporate tax avoidance and aggressive tax planning. S&D has been working for years on taxation policy and already produced many key reports, campaigns and political fights that are now a reference in the European Parliament. The Econ Committee and myself as rapporteur, we have already submitted a concrete action plan for the Commission and the Council to pursue in the forthcoming months. It is the annual tax report. The report contains all the key areas of legislation and non-legislative acts that are needed. It identifies all the necessary tools to address issues like LuxLeaks 1 and 2. Investigating journalists have already triggered the momentum with the information they provided, but the truth is we knew what was happening and now we know the extent. We're talking about only 1% of tax rate. So we have to plan the future against unethical and unfair taxation structures that multinationals take advantage of. It's time to defend the interest of the honest taxpayers. What I must stress also is that S&D has been calling for all this time, and what we have put on the table with this report has been acknowledged by 3 ministers of finance of Italy, Greece and France in their letter to Moscovici for tax harmonization in the EU. So we welcome the commitment of the Commissioner to act immediately and present results during the first semester. More specifically, our holistic approach has 3 main priorities. Targeted tax measures to boost the benefits of the internal market by reducing all the mismatches between different tax systems of the Member States. We call for increased transparency on taxation rules and regulations, a mandatory corporate common tax base, an ambitious financial transaction tax which includes not only stocks but also derivatives, fighting tax fraud, tax evasion, aggressive tax planning and tax havens. So we call for conclusion of the savings tax agreements with third countries so that we abolish totally the bank secrecy. The extension of country-by-country reporting to monitor where profits are located and where taxes are paid. Information exchange to cross-border tax rulings to tax profit where it is produced. On the common EU position and a set of criteria for the definition of tax havens, for a European blacklist of tax havens, for strong sanctions against banks that make fraud possible for the multinationals, for strong sanctions against companies involved in fraud by not granting EU funding or access to state aid. Commission to intensify its use of EU state aid rules against aggressive tax planning, and Commission to introduce an EU anti-BEPS directive so that you pay fair their share as a multinational company, and also common anti-abuse provisions. And finally, tax harmonization for a long-term growth oriented economic policy. We call for well-defined structural reforms, including an EU strategy to minimize tax gap and shift of tax burden from labour. So the solutions are known. We have already presented our report. Diagnosis is made. We must act with no delay, and we insist Commission to present and all ECOFIN ministers to agree and implement our proposals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from your side? Yes, please.